LDV. I work out of it and currently towing the camper with it, but needed a canopy so I could put a fridge and some gear in there. So basically this video is going to be me fitting out the canopy. If you've got any questions, obviously hit us up, but dual batteries in there, fridge. This side here, driver's side, will be my work area because I'm going to work out of it, and then on the driver's side will be the fridge, kitchen area. So we'll put this together and see how it all looks. Alright, so it's day two. First day I only managed to get the fridge and the drawers locked down, well the afternoon because half the day was wasted getting stuff from Bunnings and Kings. But today anyway I'm going to start cutting up some timber and making up some boxes and boards and carpeting and basically fitting it out. I'm going to do the work side first because obviously I need that to make money, and then I'll do the play side after that. Here we go. Safety first, guys. Look after your ears and eyes. Well, that's the first cut. Alright, so I framed up the box. This one here, I'm going to be throwing shovels in there, so I'm just going to spray the inside black. And once I get it in and work out where other bits and pieces are going, I'll probably end up carpeting it as well. That way the outside looks nice, and I mean the inside, the shovel's getting thrown in there, so it does need to be pretty on the inside. Okay, couple of tips, especially for you out there, you know who you are. Buy timber that is straight to start off with, and if you do square cuts or straight cuts, then it's a lot easier to put together because it's square to start with. Stapler, good stapler for doing carpeting, brilliant. Glue also helps, but I'm not gluing mine. I'm just stapling it down, pulling it tight, as you can see, and it's turning out good enough for me. Staples. All right, back in the shed. Another weekend because it's an ongoing process, obviously. Canopy is pretty much getting together. I've pretty much sorted out the work side of things. Fridge, drawers, they're all mounted in. We'll be working on the headboard today. Basically, inverter, running the Manager 30, so Redarc Manager 30. With the Redvision and the Redvision display. Just figured I'm going to run the canopy as a standalone unit, so have it all there. If I leave it, parked up for a while, I can plug it into the 240. Be running a solar panel on the roof as well. So here we go. I'm going to put together the good old headboard. Made a template up for the headboard. Now I kind of have to put it together. So here we go. So apparently I've got a couple of visitors coming to visit me and see how I'm travelling. Got Geoff.
Yep, just came from the river.
What were you doing at the river, mate?
Just to see if the rivers run dry.
The river's run
So we
dry.
can return to the scene of the crime. Nah, just doing a bit of a tent peg review, which you'll see on the channel. Or you might see that before you see this.
You may have already seen the tent peg review video. If you haven't, be sure to check out Geoff's review of the tent peg. What type of tent peg is it, Geoff?
Oh, you'll have to see the review. Can't reveal that, mate.
How you going, bro? Campingmates Australia.
Fucking oath, mate.
Campingmates Australia. How you doing? I don't have the bolts I actually need. I need to run back to Bunnings and get some M10 by 50 mil bolts.
10. They're like a lot closer.
I don't know. You want to go to my 10 for me?
No, but you can go because I'm going to.
So I got the headboard. I've carpeted it up, and then what I've done for mounting the actual inverter, the Manager 30, and the Redvision controller is I've just basically bolted through the actual headboard, whacked a nut on this side, so the actual units will sit over here. I measured it first, obviously, to make sure they're all fit, and then I will just bolt down on top of these bolts, which you may not be able to see. There you go. Alright, so bolts are sticking out, put the units on top, bolt down. So basically, in the future, if I do need to pull the units off for some reason to access it, maintain it, look at something's going wrong, basically it's a matter of just 4 bolts and it'll undo nice and easy without having to pull the whole thing apart. Alright, it's a windy day. Let's close the roller door. Redarc Redvision. I bought the kit, so it comes with the Manager 30, the Redvision display, and the Redvision controller, I guess you'd call it. At least that's what I call it. See, I've still got to mount it up, so I've already pre-marked everything on the headboard, and as you saw before, I actually put bolts through from behind, so I can literally just put them in place and bolt them up nice and easy is the idea. And then I'm going to work out how I'm going to do the wiring. Alright, this is the TVMS, so distribution board. Comes with a bunch of stickers, which obviously you'll be able to label what each fuse is once got it all wired up. Manual, probably need that later. Connectors, fuse. A few other bits and pieces in here. And then obviously distribution box. So just show you. So up in here, that's where all the fuses will end up. Down the bottom, obviously where all the connections go. I'll work out the wiring once I get it mounted up. And because I prepared this earlier, and just to make it all pretty, I decided I'd use black bolts, black washers. We've got the Manager 30, a little bit heavier. Alright, it's the Manager 30. It also comes with the shunt in the same box. More instructions, connector for the Manager 30, and then you have a 240 volt lead. Now the lead is because this is a battery management system. Say you're at a caravan park or in the shed, if I'm leaving the ute parked in the shed for a month or so, or even a few days or a week, and I want to keep the batteries topped up, I can actually plug the Manager 30 into 240 volt power and it'll just run like a battery charger and keep the batteries topped up. Let's get the Manager 30. That's where the 240 will go in, and then that's where the connectors on the end will go. Alright, so you get your load, ignition, solar, and then obviously from the car And they do run a CAN bus system for the units to talk to each other. Alright, all very precise. I have pre-drilled the shunt, but I haven't actually popped the bolts through. And the last box here is the display. Now I haven't decided where I'm going to put the display in the canopy as yet. Obviously the display comes with some instructions. Mounting bracket, cover. Then you've also got the display. And also the connection cable. Alright, I'm going to pop that back in the box because I'm not going to mount it as yet. As I said, haven't decided where it's going. Alright, now because I went to the effort of basically mounting the bolts as studs on the panel, as you can see, I just put them over the top, as long as you mark, measure and put them in the right spot to start with. And then I'm just using black nuts and washers to make it look prettier. Just pop these on here finger tight for now. So obviously pre-drilled the holes. Just get my bolt, pop it through. Alright, time to mount the shunt. So I'm just going to bolt this up traditional method, just the way this thing mounts up. It's just going to be easier. And because it's a small item, I don't think it will worry me having to pull it apart at a later stage, but if I do, I guess it's going to be a little bit more difficult due to the way I'm attaching it. We'll do it up. Alright now, and the next item I'm going to put on there might be controversial, might not be, but anyway, King's 3000 watt inverter. Yes, I'm running the Redarc. I mainly wanted it for the distribution system, having everything in the one place. It's got a nice display. Yes, it's quite expensive, but for me it was worth the money. Because of what it does, being a battery management system. As I said, if I leave the car, if I go away for a month or something like that, I can just leave it plugged in. I know when I get back, all the batteries will be maintained. And the distribution system makes it easy. You can control your lights, your outputs, so your fridge, which will be on all the time anyway, oven, any items you want, basically off your phone or off the display. I do have a water tank in the headboard on my canopy, and I may add an additional one later. So this also allows for water level sensors to be connected to it as well. I mean, not a necessity, but I do like the fact that I will be able to see whether my tanks are full, half empty, nearly empty, and then, you know, maybe I can decide I might need to top up sooner rather than later, just depending on the status of those. Alright, so the King's 3000 watt inverter. Why did I decide to go for this? Number one, on sale it was $2.99. Number two, I mean, I watched a bunch of reviews on YouTube. I couldn't find anyone for the life of me complaining about it. It seems to work. It's like 10% of the price of some of the others out there. So I'm going to give it a go. Worst case it doesn't work, but I think it's going to be absolutely fine. Now in the box, it does come with some cables for connection. I think they're 2 or 0 gauge, sort of guessing by the outside. There's a little instruction manual. And she is a big unit. Once again, because I put the studs coming back up the other way, basically just line it up, drop it on top, grab some washers. And my main decision on this was it's $2.99, and I couldn't find any bad reviews in regards to the King's inverter. And obviously once I hook it up, I'm probably going to be running jackhammer off it for work, and then possibly an air fryer when I'm out camping. Just to see how it runs. Not too fast on a coffee machine. I just use a little gas burner, so one of the hiking stoves, and a percolator. Right, I might nip all these up. A bit of weight in that now. That is basically how it is going to sit in the back of the canopy. Now the fun part, laying out all the wiring. I better find the nut that I just lost. Here it is. In fact, I could probably just throw these on now. Don't think there's any particular way, but I will just have a look. And I'm only going to do it loosely for now, until I figure out exactly which way it's going to run. Alright, so, got everything set up on the board pretty much. I ended up picking up some of these cheap circuit breakers off eBay. See how they go, 50 amp, 40 amp, and I grabbed a 300 amp for the inverter. But time will tell, because I'm not confident in the 300 amp circuit breaker because it was like 20 bucks. But anyway, I'll give it a crack, and if it just blows, hopefully nothing catches on fire. But if it just blows, then I might invest in a more expensive one. But because they all look the same, I mean, you know what? I'll give this one a crack and see what happens. It was literally $20 on eBay. It says 300 amp, 50 amp, and a 40 amp. Because with Manager 30, alright, to the second battery or second batteries, we need a 40 amp fuse or breaker. So I'm going to try this one. And then from your starter battery in the car, alright, you need a 50 amp breaker. So I've got the 40 amp, which goes to the second battery. And then the 50 amp, which will be coming from the starter battery to the Manager 30. So let's get these wired up, see how this thing goes. Alright, so in the Redarc book, they do recommend using the 8 BNS if it's less than 3 meters, and 6 BNS if it's greater than 3 meters from the starting battery, and similar story, but 8 BNS if it's less than 1.5 meters, and 6 BNS if it's more than 1.5 meters to the what they call a house battery, which is your secondary battery. I'm just going to run 6 BNS for both. So even though my run to the secondary battery or house battery is less than a meter, I'm going to run the 6 BNS, and to the starter battery, I'm actually going to run 3 BNS. Bigger is always better in the case of 12 volt. So you can go a little bit too big where nothing really fits because it's just too heavy and thick. But basically I'm going up an extra step on what Redarc have suggested. That way there's less voltage drop basically. and it'll carry more current, but I'm running the correct size fuses, alright, which these are actually technically gonna trip a lot earlier than what the cable's rated for. So I really shouldn't have a problem of voltage drop or heat, because the heats are going to dissipate because it's thicker cable, and basically it'll carry the current and the voltage much better. Back to wiring. Alright, so soldering lugs. What I normally do, because I love to solder them, some people crimp them, but solder, just get as much of it as you can, jam it in there, alright, and then you heat it up. It'll all melt, put some more in, it'll all melt when it's almost full. I mean, this one here's got a little line on it. I normally go to the little line. And then when she's almost full, get her all hot, just stick the cable in, and it'll all soak in, and beautiful joint, absolutely beautiful joint, nothing's going to go wrong with it. Blowtorch. Alright, so it's melted in, do the same again. And this one's almost full. So basically she's almost full to the top. So what I'll do now is I'll heat it up and then basically stick the cable in, keep the heat on it so that the solder soaks up as the cable heats up as well. And then once you sort of see the solder soak up into the cable, you're pretty sweet then. Just push down gently. Yes, you might end up using getting a bit of char on there if you're using a blowtorch, but if you look closely, solder's actually soaked into the copper, which means the connection's good. If the copper and the solder are separated, well, then you haven't got a good connection. You need a bit more heat. I heat shrink all my connections afterwards, so a bit of heat shrink over that and it'll look pretty again. Now this one here has actually got an open top. So if you've got the open top, I'll just put a bit in there to start with, and then I'm going to just put in the vise this way, and I'm going to feed the solder down into the hole, and then wait till it soaks all the way through, and then on the copper on the bottom. As you can see there, there's no solder on the copper at the moment. Looks like I'm out of gas. Might have to top this one up. And it takes a bit because it's a big lug. I can see the solder starting to come down through the bottom now. Pull the heat back a little bit, and it should allow me to fill the hole up. Look closely, see the solder's made it all the way to the bottom, and once again obviously the insulation doesn't look too pretty, but it's not going to matter because I am going to put some heat shrink over the top of it. So basically the whole thing, top to bottom, filled with solder, very good connection. Can crimp them. I know lots of people love crimping them. I'd crimp it, but I'm not a fan of crimping it. I love the solder. I know that it's completely soldered, filled, and perfect connection. Crimp connections do work well, but for me, it's not the same as soldering it. Takes longer though to do this. So with heat shrink, alright, basically just cut it to the length you want and slide it over the top if it will fit. But if you have something that's going to be too large to fit the correct size heat shrink over, put the heat shrink on the cable before you actually solder it, because otherwise you won't be able to slide it over the top. Give it a good old hit with the heat gun. And the connections look pretty again.
LDV Canopy.
basically finally finished it, but you never really finish anything. I might do some small tweaks in the future, but at the moment it's set up perfectly and how I wanted it. Let me run through the Canopy with you, see what I've done. Obviously, please comment, tell me what you like, don't like. If you've got any questions, obviously throw those in the comments as well. And I'm happy to do a deeper dive into things like the inverter, the Redarc Manager 30 system, and the batteries if you want me to. So once again, if you put comments in there, I might do another video just on those separate items rather than this full overview. This is the camping side, or the side I live out of. Keeps me fed each day when I'm at work, and obviously when I'm out playing, camping and adventuring. All right, so I've got the set of drawers from MRT. They're at Ingleburn. Easy transaction. It's one of the nicest set of drawers. Actually, it is the nicest set of drawers that you can get off the shelf to put in a Canopy. 4 drawers, tapers in to follow the profile. I moved mine back a bit, so basically I had a bit of bench space. Nice catch underneath. Slam them shut. They work perfectly. Down the bottom, I mean, got my little axe or hatchet. Got a vacuum cleaner because, you know, it's always good to clean a bit of dirt and shit, especially if you're gonna put food or drinks, things like that there. Next one up, basically you might see I've got the King's oven up here. So I do have the well-used Road Chef tray. Might need to give that a little clean out. So I use that when I'm doing pies, schnitzels, you know, anything you sort of baking in the tray. If I've got wet food, I actually found a nice little mess tin. All right, so curries, pastas, things where there's liquids that might, you know, slosh around a little bit while it's cooking or as it gets warm. I just whack it in the mess tin, put the lid on, whack it in there and let it go. Takes longer than a microwave. I typically turn it on maybe an hour before I want to eat, hour and a half, just depends whether you want a lower temperature, cook it for longer, or a higher temperature. And then obviously being in this tin, there's no mess inside. Rest of the drawers basically gas, because I've got a little gas cooker. Just found this on eBay. Literally, it's the out of doors camping kit. So it's got a little gas burner, couple of pots. Actually came with a cup and utensils. I think it was about 30 bucks online. Like, just makes it nice and easy. It's not the fanciest one out there, but it works. It wasn't expensive. And for coffee, just use a percolator. They're nice and easy. Water, coffee, screw the lid on. Put it on top of gas. Or induction cooker. I do have an induction cooktop in here at the moment because I've got the 240 with the inverter, and it runs fine as well. And then obviously as it heats up, beautiful coffee on the inside. I'll pop it in the box because it's easier. And of course you always need some nice coffee to make good coffee. The other drawers just have my work tools in there and some paperwork on top. Induction cooker, I just have it tucked away in the clear top bag. Plug it in, turn it on, use it, simple. Before I had the induction cooktop, I just used gas. At the moment I got both, but I might just drop the gas and just go to the induction cooktop, or I might just keep both in here. I think you messed up my fridge. Yeah, you moved one.
Oh shit, sorry. Is that like, do you want to cool that down for me a bit there?
All right, good old fridge. Went for the King's 110 litre fridge. At first I thought I may have gone a little bit too big. It was only once I unboxed it and sort of put it in the canopy, I'm like, maybe I've made a mistake here and gone too big, but after living with it for the last couple of months, it's actually perfect size. I don't run out of room, can fit plenty in there. All right, you got a couple of shelves of beer. I got another shelf of beer over there as well, but obviously if I've got the family and we're going away somewhere, I'll put food in there. Large drinks on the bottom. Comes with a tray in the bottom, you can keep fresh fruit and things like that on the bottom. I've just got juices for the kids in there at the moment. Basically you move your shelves up and down. I sort of just adjusted it to suit myself, which I'm sure you will do the same. Freezer has a nice little magnetic catch up there on the lid, but do remember to put it back down because I've done it a few times before you close the door. I normally just keep some Sanger rolls. Curry, this one's butter chicken. I throw this in the mess tin, whack it in the oven for an hour, 2 hours on a lower temperature, and comes out beautiful. Lunch, dinner, sorted. Remember to close that lid. That's the fridge. All right, over here, kind of my little charging.
Actually, hang on, mate. Sorry, just before you.
Oh, he wants a beer.
Get yourself a beer, want a beer.
All right, so over here I sort of built, well, this box holds my shovels for work, but I ended up turning it into a little shelf, charging shelf here. Do charge my batteries when I'm working. Got a set of 12 volt, sort of between cigarette sockets and USB sockets. So I put a little panel in here. On the panel, I've got a couple of USB outlets, and then I've got a couple of traditional marine 12 volt socket outlets. And then I also mounted, there is with the King's inverter, a separate little controller. So if I want to turn it on from this side, I can. It's just tucked away in there. So get a shot of that very shortly, which Geoff will just overlay on top. So there's the inverter remote. Yeah, I've tucked it away in there. Redarc Redvision. Just tap it. This thing's been working brilliantly. I mean, at the moment, solar's on. It's an overcast day. I've got the 160 watt King's solar panel on the roof, and she's putting in 1.8 amps. It's at 100%, so it really doesn't need anything at the moment, just keeping it topped up. But this thing's brilliant. Connects with the phone. I can turn on and off the lights just off the phone. My beacons for work. Fridge I leave on all the time. 12 volt oven. Just touch the button, and then if you want, you can just load up the Redvision app. Basically tells you the status. You can scroll down, see what your inputs are. At the moment, I don't know if you can see that because there is a bit of a reflection, putting about 25, 28 watts. So if I want to control the outlets, I'll just tap control. So at the moment I've got a 12 volt, got the fridge on. Turn the canopy lights on. So I don't know if you can see that. Lights on, lights off, lights on, lights off. So it works pretty well. Haven't had a problem at all so far. And obviously got the Redarc screen. So the panel that I was making that you've seen earlier in the video, obviously it's up there mounted with the Redarc Manager and the TVMS, so the Manager 30 control system. And then behind it on the other side is the inverter, which we'll switch over to that side very shortly. Batteries are tucked away in behind the panel there on that side. All right, the work side. Obviously you can see a bit more of the panel on this side. The inverter's mounted up there. Obviously got the batteries set up. I used Anderson plugs for nearly all my connections. That way if I want to disconnect on the fly I can. And everything's sort of tucked away in the middle apart from that. So in the work area, I mean, shovel, broom, essentially most of my work I'm digging. Couple of buckets for rubbish and bits and pieces. And then I made up a couple of boxes up here. So this one stores some of the product that I use when I'm working. Then I got my tools all tucked away in there as well. It also doubles up when I go away. I can pull all this out. This top box perfectly fits my Sabre recovery bag with all the bits and pieces in it. And the bottom one here, I can either throw my single swag in there, or I can throw my big duffel bag that I keep my kids and my kids' clothes in. And then in the middle, at the moment, it's sort of whatever I want to put in there. Once again, swag, or can tuck away the stretchers in there. In behind the boxes, I actually discovered by accident, I found the most perfect place to put my front runner camping chairs. Ooh. I seem to be lucky with that. It's like, I always find a spot. So look, you can't even see them. Tucked in there.
Oh,
look at that, double
the fact
stacked.
that you can't see them actually is what's cool. That's amazing.
Accident that the front runner chairs, which they pack up basically in a square and about yay wide. Might put in some footage of the chairs in this section. They actually tuck up in between or in behind the boxes, which is brilliant. May not live there forever. I may just carry one set because I might end up putting an air compressor system in there with an outlet somewhere in the future. But for now, I'll tuck the chairs up in behind there. And I am thinking about building a little drawer here that I'll drop in when I do camping. So on this side, I do have more storage. But that's basically it for the Canopy. I mean, my lights, I just used the camping light set, strapped them up there and ran the cables. I'm not one for drilling holes in things unnecessarily. So that's why if you do notice, there's just a couple of straps and the cables are sort of running in behind and underneath, but it works. And I'm not drilling or destroying anything. And if I want to change it in the future, it's easy to change. Just unstrap it and move it. Or if it breaks, just buy a new set and whack it in.